Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and today we're going to be doing a little scene with basic rectangles from Simon Says Stamp, and then Christmas, is it Pals? Christmas Friends? Christmas Friends from Pretty Pink Posh. So I have drawn myself a door here, and I did that beforehand because it took me a little bit to figure it out. So we're going to do the stamping, and then I'll do the outlining of the door. I saw these little cuties from Pretty Pink Posh, and I just felt like they would be so cute, like little carolers, but instead of bringing songs, that they brought coffee, because I basically think about coffee all the time. I'm pretty much obsessed with it. Like Dunkin' Donuts and I are on a first name basis. When I roll up to the drive-thru, they already know it's me. It's really sad. But anyway, so I'm doing some masking so I can put some little coffee cups in their hands. Whatever you want in the forefront, you have to stamp first. So I stamped the coffee cup first, masked it, and then stamped her. I also masked her and the little boy, but I didn't need to. I was thinking about doing distress ink. That's not what happened here. So I'm going to put the wreath up, and again, I'm going to stamp the bow first because I want it to be in the forefront, and then I'm going to stamp the little wreath on top of that, and then I'll remove all my masks because this entire card is going to be Copic colored, and there won't be any reason to have the rest of these masks in place. Sometimes when you do one layer cards, you just get, I don't know, you just get in the habit of cutting masks for everything, so you just do it. I'm using a T-square ruler and a Copic safe marker. This is an EK Success writing pen, but you could use anything that's safe for the medium that you're using. So if you're using Copics, you can use this one, you can use a Copic multiliner, you can use a Micron, those will all work. And I'm just going to use that to outline my door and my door step. Then we're going to get into the coloring because that's the super fun part. This video is very long because I'm coloring my background and I'm coloring my little people. So, yeah, hopefully it's worth it. Anyway, for the door, I wanted it to just really have some character and just really be a good backdrop. So I'm coloring the darkest parts. I'm doing my shading because this part of the woodwork is beveled. So it's raised up from the door. So it would be darker where it's inset to the actual door, and then it would be darker where the front piece kind of pops out and casts the shadow to the back. So that's how we're coloring it. So I did start with my darkest color because I knew that I wasn't going to have a lot of real estate here for coloring, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to get the shadows that I wanted to get. And then I just added just a little bit of dark down the center, just to give it some depth, just so it wouldn't be flat color. Now at this point, you're not missing anything, but I had to switch over because my son woke up in the middle of the night. And came to visit me in my craft room. So he was all grabby hands on what mommy was doing. Here, for the actual door in the background, we're going to be doing very, very minimal shading. And this is just the second darkest color. So what is that? BG 75, I think. And I'm going to put that on the outside. I'm going to outline any of the woodwork, and then behind my little characters and underneath the wreath. All of those things will get some darker shading. And then for the rest of the beveled edges, the decoration for the door per se is going to be colored the same way as that first piece was. So all of them will be the same. And then I did go back in and use the darker colors to finish out that shadow underneath the wreath, because that would be substantially darker. But other than that, we're just going to fill in the door with our lightest color, and I was pretty happy with the way it came out, actually. That's not always the case when I hand draw a background, but this one, yay, I was. So in order to do the cement for the porch, anything that's darker is going to fall into the background. It's going to look further away. So I'm using my darkest color, which is a C5, and I'm adding some shadows to the back. I'm just doing little lines because I didn't want it to be flat. I wanted it to have some texture. I could have probably done stippling, like little dots. That would have totally been appropriate too for cement, but I just went with streaks because that's easier. So I did that with my darkest color, and then I brought it out a little bit. I'm going to fill in the back completely with the C3, and then I'm going to do the same thing with those stripes and bring them out to the forefront so that they blend into the C1. I will tell you that I did go back in with the C7 because you'll see when it comes to the steps, everything just looked a little bit too light. So again, like don't think like that you have to be just committed to whatever it looks like. If it's not something that you're happy with the way that it looks, there's always times to just readjust. And I don't know if you've ever heard me say this before in my other videos, but I don't pre-make my cards. Like, I might pre-stamp them if it's like a floral arrangement or I'm trying to see how something's gonna look. But when you see me make it on the video, this is the first time that I'm making it, and it just is what it is. I'll adjust as I go. So here I just felt like everything was kind of one color, and there wasn't really a whole lot of dimension for the steps. So I am going to make this part a little bit darker because it would be the step below, and then looking at it and seeing just how light that stair edge was, I went back and just covered the whole thing in the C3, and then that's when I decided to add in this C7, which I didn't show you because it was the same thing, just monotonous. So you'll see here that it is darker. I'm using those same light C colors in order to add just a little bit of dimension to her hood and her, I don't even know what you want to call it, her trim, the trim on her skirt. So I'm just using a C1 and a C3 because I wanted it to appear to be white. And it's just, you make sure that you keep those highlights on the outside edges. Those are really important. So just, you know, kind of build up that color, but make sure you keep that highlight. So from here, we're going to go into their skin tones. And I don't know, usually I prefer to color skin tones before I do hair, but there isn't a right or wrong way to do it. You do whatever order you want to do it in. I did both of them the same way. I'm adding shadows underneath their hairline and then also around their little faces. Now with her, she has her little hood up, which is totally adorable. So there's going to be some shadows there. With him, his are going to be more along his hairline because it's a little bit fluffier hanging down there, and then also a little bit around his scarf because that's covering up the lower part of his face. And then I'm just going to go lightest to darkest, and then I did add a little bit of a shadow underneath their nose just to add like a little bit of color in the middle there. I'm going to color the whole thing over with my lightest color, and then I'm going to do his. I wanted them to have a little bit of a pink cheek since they are outside, and let's be honest, pink cheeks are totally adorable. So I'm using an R20 to just go in little circles for her, half moons for him, just to kind of create that, that little rosy cheek. And then we're going to do their hair. So for her, I'm going to do a light hand and the flicking motions. We're going to be leaving the highlight, for her, it's going to be more on the right hand side. Not only is that area bigger, but that I have a tendency to color as if my light source is more from the right, just because of, that's just what I do. I mean, that's what I learned in high school, and it just kind of stuck with me. So I'm just adding those. I'm being careful not to completely cover up that highlight and working from lightest to darkest. And then for the darkest color, which is going to be the E29, I only really put it on the left-hand side, and then just a little bit, very little bit on the right, so that would look darker. I also went a little bit more heavy-handed on the left-hand side, since I wanted her highlight to really be on the right. So when I went in with the E23, which will be my lightest color, I was just a little bit more heavy-handed on those white parts on the left. For him, I'm going to color his hair in solid, and then I really wanted him to have some texture. A lot of these images, their hair just appears to be so flat just because of the way that they're drawn, and they don't have to be. So I'm using just a light hand in those flicking motions to kind of put in some strands in his hair, so that he has just a little bit of texture and movement, so he doesn't look so flat, especially when you're doing something that has, okay, so I've heard other artists say this, like, it doesn't matter how whatever you want people to focus on, color that like the Bomb Diggity. Like, okay, it's 1990, I just said that. But anyway, so color that like so that you're super happy and it's awesome and you spend a lot of detail. And then people aren't really going to notice all of the other areas that you're coloring. I have a really hard time with that, because if I color something super intricately, I just feel like the other stuff that I didn't do as intricate just looks plain. So you do whatever works for you. So speaking of intricacies and details, we're doing the woodwork on the door frame here. So I'm just drawing in like a little bit of curly cues, and I'm just going to do some lines, outline those little notches in the door frame, and just keep building that up, till I get out to my darkest color, and then again we'll go back out to the lightest color and just blend all that out, everything the same. I picked some yellow greens, and these are not as bright as I would normally go, but I didn't make the door as bright as I would normally go. So I'm using, I guess, a little bit more muted of a green, and I tend to use this really around like fall and winter, this particular color combination. These are the 90 family and the YGs. I love them. I think they're super pretty yellow green, and if you were looking to buy a set, these ones actually blend really, really well together. So here in the wreath, I'm doing the same thing as I did with his hair, where I want to create those strands of dimension, but here it's more like pine needles. And so I am adding a little bit of a shadow underneath the bow, and then really I'm just kind of like haphazardly flicking the marker. I want to go in the same direction though, so it makes sense. So you'll see me as I'm turning my paper in this giant circle so that everything makes sense, and then trying to keep that highlight on the edge just so there is, a little bit more dimension. But those strands are important for the texture. I'm going to make his hat and scarf green. I recently did a video where I'm sure you probably heard me say that I'm super matchy-matchy. I am in real life. Like my stuff has to match. I can't just be going out all bajiggity with my stuff not matching. I'm super anal, like even about my nail polish. So like this video, you can see my nail polish is blue. So when I wore that, I wore a navy blue sweater because I couldn't not let it match. I'm a psychopath, seriously. So anyway, back to the coloring. I'm doing all of his little details in this yellow green color, and his scarf is behind him, so that's going to be darker. His scarf's also behind his coffee cup, so that's going to be darker. Again, child woke up. You didn't miss anything, I promise. The behind of his hat, because the rim, like the little trim on it would stick out, that's also going to be darker, and then coming around from the side of his hat is also going to be just a little bit darker. Same thing with the gloves, because his coffee cup is in front of, like his gloves are holding it from the back. Those are going to be darker where it's closer to the coffee cup as well. So basically, rule to remember for shading: any place two objects meet, darker, and anytime there's a object in front of another one, darker. So here we're going to do their shoes black. I kind of went back and forth about coloring like cute little shoes, and I was just like, I'm just going to do black. There's a lot going on in this particular scene, and I didn't want to draw attention so much to their outfits as I did just the feel of the overall scene. So I'm doing black in my particular way. I'm coloring in with a more of a darker gray marker, and then I'm building up the shadow so that there is just a little bit of a highlight on their shoes, so it doesn't just look like flat black. For something that's tiny, you probably could do flat black and nobody would even notice, but I told you earlier, I'm kind of a crazy person. I picked some darker blues, again, more muted colors, so my color palette's, kind of staying the same, to give him just a cute little pair of blue jeans. And I have to tell you, when I first did the shading on his pants, I was like, this poor little boy just looks like he had an accident. Like, for real. And I'm like, I hope that we can shade this in a way that is not going to make him look like that, which it did end up turning out, so it was okay. As we started to spread out that color, he doesn't look like there was an emergency. This is my usual red combination, and I'm going to be using this for her dress, his sweater, and his cup. I didn't show you me coloring her cup because I didn't think you needed to see it twice. It's not that astonishing. So for her, and him, most of their clothes are going to be dark. There's not going to be a whole lot of highlight because they have the cups in front of them. Their hands are closed over their chests. All of those things are going to be very dark. So really just the highlight for her little dress is going to be on her arms. Like that would be the only place really any light was getting into. And then for him, it'll be the same kind of situation. The sweater will just be darker, and like that's okay. Sometimes, you know, you're only just going to have a little bit of those colors. And again, probably didn't need 4 colors for this, but creature of habit. So I just do what I do. I'm going to leave those little, you know, highlighted areas, and they are very, very tiny, and then go ahead and move over and do his sweater and his cup. When you're looking at something creatively, you want to work in what they call a visual triangle. So things are more pleasing in odd numbers. And so when you look at this for the red, even though his cup is a second object, they're located in the same area. So once I put the ribbon on top of the wreath and then their 2 sweaters, they are creating a visual triangle. So that makes more sense for the design. As far as the cup's concerned, the highlight's going to be in the center and the edges will be the darkest part. And usually with my darkest color, I just do 1 line on just the edge of it for something this small, and then I'll blend in the rest of those other colors, leaving just a small highlight in the front of the cup. It's not... you know, it's not super imperative. We're not trying to make it super shiny. We're just trying to make the dimension make sense. I went ahead and colored that ribbon. And then I also colored just some dark green, the same YGs I was using before on the sides to kind of fill in that space next to the porch. I picked an E50, which is from their skin tones. I didn't want to pick another color that I hadn't used before. And I also, so that anyway, the E50, I just made it like a cream colored house. I just did some shading from there. And then while I was doing this, I realized like my door did not have a doorknob. It was a door nobody could enter. So I very quickly, over what I had already colored, drew in my doorknob and then colored that with the same browns that I used for their hair, which ended up looking almost kind of like a dull brassy color, which I was totally fine with. And then we're going to add in some highlights with these metallic pens. So I have a silver, a gold, and the white, and then I'm drawing ornaments on the wreath, and some of them I'm drawing over the lines, some of them you know, outside, and some of them inside, just because that's how ornaments would look. And then I also used the gold to put a highlight on my little doorknob, and I think polka dots on his cup. I'm outlining it because I outline everything, and then I'm going to build up my card. So this is it's a 1-layer panel, but it's not a 1-layer card. I'm going to use some foam tape to pop this up, and I use those basic rectangles die to cut my Nina paper that my stamping is on, and then also to cut the glitter paper, which I have to tell you I'm totally in love with. And then that was the entire card. So thank you so much for hanging in there. I know it was a long one, but I hope you learned something along the way, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.